COVID hit,
Some Arlington businesses get a well-deserved boost to help them through. Arlington police raise good money for a great cause. And the stands may be empty, but fans can still catch all the action live thanks to ACMi Sports. This and more coming up on ACMi News.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Hello Arlington and welcome to ACMi News. I'm In-young Kim. As we tape this newscast, yet another major snowstorm is bearing down on Arlington. That is why you see me anchoring from home and not from our studio. Scientists link the extreme winter weather blanketing much of the country to Arctic warming that is a result of climate change. Beyond the frigid conditions, we have several pieces of news to share with Arlingtonians. 21 small businesses in Arlington have qualified for grants distributed by the town from funds received through the CARES Act of early 2020. ACMi News correspondent Isabel Litterst spoke with Ellie Carter, the town's director of economic development, about the impact the grants are likely to have.
When COVID hit, we were able to repurpose some of our CDBG funds that we have for small business assistance. Arlington is a CDBG entitlement community, and CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grants that are given to the town by the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, to help low to moderate income earning individuals and communities in Arlington. We had $200,000 and $180,000 we were able to give in direct grants for cash infusions into businesses for rent, utilities, payroll, just basic essential expenses. And then we set aside another $20,000 that would help businesses with longer term planning if they wanted to request that, so that they could make their business more viable during and beyond the pandemic. We were able to give out grants to everyone who completed the application process, and it was just a matter of who got how much, where the need was, how we divided up that pool of $180,000, and then how we divided up that secondary pool of $20,000 for technical assistance.
So I want to ask you about the difference between the capital grants and the tech assistance. Can you clarify what those two different elements are and who gets which side of that?
Sure. So the working capital grants are just, again, it's cash reimbursement grants. So the grant recipient has to send us proof of an expense, for example, rent, and then they give it to the town and we say, yes, that's an eligible expense, and we reimburse them up to that total grant amount that they were awarded. Technical assistance is really goes to paying consultants who have specialized expertise that can help a business get themselves to the next level. If a small business owner's computer breaks, they have to fix it or have to pay someone else to do it, right? So when they might be great at, running a retail store or, making food and running a restaurant, but not great at e-commerce or web development. And so the technical assistance is meant to hire those people who can do that work for them so that they can just say, this is what I need, but it's a little bit beyond what I can do. Please help me. There's a lot of need out there and we want to do everything we can to help meet that need. But I'm encouraged that case rates are going down, that the number of positive cases is declining regionally and in Arlington. I'm encouraged that more and more people are getting vaccinated. And I'm also encouraged that the sun is shining today. With each passing day, we're closer to warm weather where more people can be doing things outside, including transacting business, where we know that COVID transmission is very low. And so the closer we get to the summer and more people vaccinated, the better off we're going to be. The other thing that keeps me hopeful is just there's two things really. One is we haven't had an overwhelming number of businesses close. Our vacancy rate is pretty similar to what it was a year ago. Some businesses have closed, but we've also had several open. And I'm really inspired by people who they already had a plan to open a business. Pandemic hit, they kept it moving. And so we've got a few new retailers, a few new restaurants, a new grocery store. So I'm encouraged by that progress and that these people are opening and staying open. That really does help, that infusion of cash, get people from now to the summer. And I think a lot of the business owners are just holding on for that warmer weather and the more vaccinations and the lower case rate until things can look a little bit more like they did before March 2020. That's the hope. And I'm keeping it.
Yeah. Well, these business resilience fund grants that have just been awarded, these are, it sounds like just another wonderful step that you guys are putting in to helping Arlington businesses get back on their feet. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Isabel. This is really exciting news for the town economy. Remember to shop locally to continue to support Arlington's beloved small businesses. Every March, the Robbins Library sponsors Arlington Reads Together, a community-wide effort in which a whole host of programs and activities are presented centered around a single chosen book. This year's book is a classic work that explores the psychology of racism and identity. It's called Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? Assistant Library Director Anna Litton highlights some of the events we can look forward to.
I am so excited to share the news about our upcoming programming for March 2021 for our annual Arlington Reads Together program. Arlington Reads Together has been a community mainstay for many years. This year, the library is partnering with the Arlington Educational Foundation to bring the author of this year's community book pick, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? Beverly Daniel Tatum will be presenting to the community on Sunday, March 21st at 3 p.m. We're so excited to be joining the Arlington Educational Foundation in hosting her, and we have a lot of other great programs coming up during the month to support the topics that we will be discussing as part of Dr. Tatum's presentation to the community. I wanted to highlight two really special programs as well as Dr. Tatum's presentation. We're going to be launching the month on March 3rd, that's a Wednesday, when True Story Theater does a program about identity for the entire community. If you've never participated in a True Story Theater event, they're interactive theater events that allow people to tell stories. This event is a great kickoff. Even if you don't have a chance to read the book, it'll be a great way to kind of delve into some of the themes that are in the book. So we hope to see many community members there. And I'm really excited for our kind of wrap-up event for the month, which is a concert with Tim Hall, who's a lauded musician from Boston. I look to bring a little joy into each year's community read programming, and Tim Hall's mix of spoken word and saxophone, as well as his themes of masculinity, identity, are just perfect for this month. And I think it should be a really joyous wrap up to a fantastic month of programming.
While we are all hoping that the tide is beginning to turn, the long months of the pandemic have put a strain on many families, especially those who have had to deal with the loss of a loved one. A local nonprofit has been working in Arlington for a long time to support grieving children. And this year, they received a generous donation from the Arlington Police Department. ACMi News correspondent Maxim Isaac has the story.
The Arlington Police Department is lending a helping hand to a local nonprofit during these tough times by raising $6,000 for families in need.
Like this year is the first year that we went with something in the community.
Back in 2019, the APD participated for the first time in No Shave November and contributed the proceeds to the fight against cancer. But because of the pandemic, last year the department opted to donate the money to a different cause. The Children's Room is the largest bereavement center in the state and is located right here in Arlington.
The children's room supports families who have had a child or a parent die, and supports their families with kids ages 3.5 to 18.
The nonprofit offers 100% free services to all children and families, so fundraising is vital to their finances.
The $6,000 that the Arlington police raised for us will essentially support one family for a full year in our peer support programs.
During the pandemic, the organization has converted many of their programs to Zoom, but to service non-techie clients, there are other alternatives.
One particular program we have is a family night where families come and do art-based activity in memory of their person who died. And so we actually put together like a full packet of information and mailed that to our families so that they could do it at their home, especially for younger kids. To be on Zoom isn't always ideal. So we've tried to give our families different options.
Captain Kernis says all of the money was raised by the police department and their 2 unions. And if you're interested in helping out too, just head over to the Children's Room's website to make a donation. For ACMi News, I'm Maxim Isaac.
Thank you, Maxim, and thanks to the Arlington Police Department, whose efforts bring a warm feeling in the middle of this harsh winter. Here is some good news for sports fans and everyone who supports our student athletics. Although the pandemic has curtailed the attendance at games, the folks at ACMi Sports have been there to make sure those games can still be enjoyed, both live and on demand. Senior news producer Anim Osmani spoke with a few of the people who make it all happen.
This high school sports season was peculiar as COVID-19 disrupted many interscholastic operations for high school student athletes. Nonetheless, the MIAA, governing body for high school sports, managed to put together a sports season for students, but at the expense of live attendance. However, as they have for a long time, ACMi Sports will continue to deliver games live so that Arlingtonians can still support their young athletes.
So ACMi has been doing our best to bring every varsity sports game for hockey, basketball to the fans live on our YouTube sports channel and on the ACMi education channel.
Despite the scarcity of volunteers due to COVID-19, ACMi Sports overcame challenging circumstances to deliver content that allows parents to see their kids in action.
Fortunately, because of the pandemic, the schedule is very repetitive in that all the games happen on Wednesdays or Saturdays, so it's not like a regular sports season where we're running all around figuring things out at the last minute. So it was pretty manageable for the most part. It helps to have all the volunteers that we have. And we just have to be flexible because sometimes the game might be canceled at the last moment or rescheduled because of COVID-19. So we're trying to be flexible and we're doing the best we can.
Volunteers are essential to ACMi Sports productions, but their sports seasons also hangs in the balance along with the athletes.
If there was no sports, for me, that would have been detrimental, not only for the athletes, but for me as well. This is what I do with ACMi. It's basically centered around high school sports.
Nick Antonakis is a valuable volunteer at ACMi Sports who hopes to one day become a professional sports commentator. The pandemic has not only impacted student athletes, but has also reached beyond those who are in the game.
What better night to do it than here on senior night?
If there were no high school sports, I would basically be doing not much besides working at my job and the Nosebleeds podcast. That would be pretty much it for me. But yeah, I'm very lucky that, this happened the way it did. And we got to have a sports season this year, because if it wasn't for that, it would have been disappointing for sure.
Kevin Wetmore hopes to continue providing Arlington youth with exciting opportunities and the town with great sports content.
We hope to grow and just keep getting better and better and providing great sports coverage of Arlington sports going forward. I think that we have some really great youth right now that are eager to get out there and learn sports production. If you know any students that might be interested in learning sports production, it's very fun activity. It's a great skill to learn because they're working on a team together.
There is no telling what the near future holds for the high school sports season. However, students and parents are appreciative about what has already been accomplished for Arlington High athletes. You can continue to support Arlington student athletes by tuning into games on the Education Channel. For ACMi News, I'm Anim Osmani.
Thank you, Anim. ACMi will continue to provide great coverage of youth sports so you never have to miss the games you enjoy. Have you filled out the annual town survey yet? Envision Arlington is once again asking residents for their opinion about various aspects of life in Arlington, with the outcomes to be presented and addressed at town meeting. Here is Scott Lever, co-chair of Envision Arlington, to tell us what the survey is about and why it's important and how you can fill it out.
The survey is sponsored by Envision Arlington, which is a town committee made up of volunteers, town staff, and elected officials. And each year, Envision Arlington does a survey to the residents of Arlington with the help of the town's planning department. We use the survey to inform town policy and to help inform town decision makers about what's happening in Arlington and what the residents think. Every year we do a mailing inside the town census. So if you recently received your census note from the town of Arlington, in it is a slip which has the website address for the survey. And in case you don't have that, it's very easy to reach online. It's an online survey. And you can reach the survey at Arlington Mass or MA, arlingtonma.gov/survey. Envision Arlington has been doing the town survey for many years. And each year we customize the survey a little bit based on what's happening in and around town. And this year, given events around the pandemic and around a number of racial inequality related events and happenings, we really kind of focused on a couple of things in the survey this year. Number one, we asked residents about wellness. So there's a number of questions around wellness as well as racial equity questions. There's a number of other things that we touched on in the survey and things related to schools and the effect the pandemic may be having on students, as well as around seniors. So the survey covers a lot of territory, but we do customize it a bit every year, as you noticed. So it's really quick. It's 10 minutes. And there's parts of the survey that may not apply to a given person filling out the survey. We ask residents 15 and older to complete the survey. Each person can do it uniquely, so it isn't just one person in a household. It can be anyone 15 or older. And we ask you to go to arlingtonma.gov/survey and complete it. It takes about 10 minutes. And so far we've had several thousand people in Arlington complete the survey. The survey will be open for about another week until the end of the month of February. And we're hoping to have as much participation across town as we can. It can be done on your mobile phone. It can be done at a computer, either way. And the great thing is that the information really does get into the hands of decision makers and policy makers in town. So we're asking everyone to give us your point of view and to share what's going on in your life with regard to the questions, and let us know. So by town meeting time, so later in the spring, we'll have some preliminary results that we share with the town meeting, and looking forward to have everyone's input.
The deadline to submit your survey is March 1st. It's February vacation week for Arlington students, including our Ponderscope crew, so they will be back next week with all the high school news you can use. There was playoff action for several of the sports teams, however, and here's a recap of how things went for the Spy Ponders.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the ACMi Sports Update. Playoffs have returned for both hockey and basketball, and we have 2 rounds of action to talk about. Let's start it off with the boys basketball squad, who took on Wakefield at home in the first round of the playoffs. They were able to knock off the Warriors by a score of 67-57 to advance to the next round. In this semifinal matchup, they took on Watertown, and after a hard-fought battle, unfortunately the boys came up short and were eliminated. We'll stick to the court where the girls basketball squad was at home for their first round matchup against Wilmington. Were able to come out with a great win by a score of 64-35. They then hosted Belmont to a semifinal playoff game in Arlington. The girls played an incredible game and were able to win 60-47 to advance to the finals of the state championship tournament. They'll take on Burlington tomorrow at 11 a.m., so make sure to check it out live on the Burlington Access TV Facebook page. Now, boys hockey was on the road for their first round matchup, and they were able to come out with a huge win to advance to the semifinals. The boys traveled to Belmont for this semifinal matchup, and after an intense regulation, the two teams were knotted at 1. It took more than overtime to decide the victor, as the two teams continued to stay tied as we went into a shootout. Unfortunately for the Spy Ponders, the Marauders were able to steal one and come away with the shootout win, advancing to the finals. Last but not least, the girls' varsity hockey squad started their playoff journey with a matchup at home against Wakefield. After a back-and-forth start to the game, the girls were able to pull away and win 3-1. The girls were back at home yesterday to take on rivals in the Winchester Sachems. There were a lot of storylines leading into this game, as their previous matchups during the regular season were as competitive as ever. The Spy Ponders led 1-0 at first, but the Sachems were able to charge back and tie things up at 1. It took until this goal by senior Olivia DeMarco in the second period for the Spy Ponders to break away.
Awkward shot angle there, but now it's sent in the middle, shot, they score! Off the line change, the Spy Ponders capitalize. That may have been the right move by the Spy Ponders to put an unexpected shot on net. Rebound gets sent out in the middle. Who but Olivia DeMarco, who's really come alive these past two games. Nets a goal for the Spy Ponders to break the tie, and they take the lead back.
The Spy Ponders were able to hold that lead and win by a score of 2-1, punching their ticket to the state championship finals to take on Woburn tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. ACMi will be covering the game, so make sure to check it out on ACMi Sports on YouTube Live. And that's all we've got for you this week. Best of luck to the girls basketball squad and girls hockey squad in the state finals of the tournament. From ACMi Sports, my name is Nick Antonakis. Enjoy the playoff action this weekend, everybody.
Thank you for tuning into this week's newscast. For the cast and crew of ACMi News, I'm Young Kim, and we'll see you next time.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.